had personal miracles in your life? And who here is still holding on to a vision of a miracle that has not yet manifested? Okay. I want you to know that it's never too late for a miracle to happen. No matter how long you've been holding on to a vision. A very important person in my life who brought a miracle to me that I'll never forget, that some of you know, and I'm sure Richard has talked about this person, was Sky St. John, who was a much beloved Unity minister that recently passed. And I want to tell you a story, a miracle story about the miracle that Sky brought into my life that I'll never forget, and that I honor him for that and for who he was on the planet. In 2002, my wife and I had the privilege of speaking in a week-long conference at Unity Village. And we just got through with one of our talks, and we were really feeling great about the energy. It was just such a wonderful place to be. And right after our talk, they made an announcement about another workshop that was going to happen the next day by a Unity minister named Sky St. John. And they said the title of his workshop is called Coming Home. And as soon as I heard those words, something told me, David, you've got to go to this workshop. And so I did. And in the midst of Sky's workshop, he tells us this story about how Elizabeth Kubler-Ross taught him how to do the coming home experience. And he said in the midst of that workshop, there was a whole group of Vietnam veterans out in the audience. And Elizabeth asked the vets if they would be willing to go into another room for a little while, that she wanted to create some healing for them with the rest of the audience. And so they went into the other room and they waited. And while they were in the room, Elizabeth went back to the audience and she said, you know, these men and women are still dealing with the atrocities of that war. But even more so than that, when they came home, they were not welcome home by our country. And that has hurt them for a long, long, long time. And it's time that we represent our country in a whole new way. So when they come out of that room, we're going to cheer them on, we're going to give them words of praise, we're going to give them healing energy, and we're going to welcome and support them back to our own country so that they can finally heal from this experience. And everybody agreed to do it. So she brings the vets back in, and as soon as they walked in, everybody started cheering and clapping and giving words of praise and healing music and blessings, and it was absolutely amazing. But the vets were so overcome with emotion that they fell to their hands and knees and just started weeping. Years and years and years of tears just pouring down their cheeks. And so Elizabeth asked the group to create a circle around them. And she asked the vets to stand back up and walk amongst the people to receive personal blessings. Well, they stood up, but they were so weak-kneed, so overcome with emotion, they couldn't walk. They fell back down on their hands and knees and literally had to crawl amongst the people to receive their blessings. But they did it. And a miracle happened for all of those men and women that day. A miracle that they'd been praying about for a long, long time. So Sky tells us this story, and he says, now, in our audience, anyone here that has not felt welcomed or supported in any way, shape, or form in your life, you're going to go to the back of the room. And the rest of us are going to go to the front of the room, and we're going to be your welcome home committee. You're going to tell us your story, and we're going to welcome you home and help you feel loved and supported. Well, I, being one of the presenters in the conference, just naturally got up and started walking to the front of the room to support everybody else. But when I did, a little inner voice spoke to me and said, you know, Dave, you've been holding on to something for a long, long, long time. And this is your chance to tell your story and heal once and for all. So you go to the back of the room. Well, in that moment, I wasn't exactly sure what the inner voice was talking about, but I knew it was important, so I just turned around and went to the back of the room. And everybody, one by one, was telling these most amazing stories of how they didn't feel welcomed and supported in their lives and what they needed to heal. And one by one, Sky would welcome them home and embrace them, and everybody would give them words of praise and healing energy and blessing, and healings were just abounding. It was amazing to watch. And all of a sudden, it was my turn. And I walked up to pick up the mic, and I still didn't know what exactly I was going to say. But as soon as I picked up the mic, that inner voice spoke to me and said, "You know what, Dave? You were one of those Vietnam vets. Your country, your father, everybody forgot about you as if you didn't even exist. And when you got off that plane with all those men and women to be greeted back in America, there was not one person there, not one for anyone on that plane. And that has hurt for over 30 years. And I need my own country to welcome me home, to heal from this experience. It was bad enough just being there, but to come home to a country that doesn't welcome us was too much." As soon as I said those words, about 150 people rushed at me, practically knocked me on the floor. They were giving me love and blessing and healing, and Sky ran to the piano and played parade music, and I was so overwhelmed, so overcome with emotion that I collapsed. I just collapsed on the floor. And for the first time in 30 years, I started crying uncontrollably. I couldn't stop myself. Tears just pouring down my cheeks. And Sky walked up to me and he lifted me up and he held me in his arms. And he said, "We're so glad you're back, Davey. Welcome home. Thank you so much." And everybody started saying the most amazing things. And they were giving me healing touch. And one person said something that I'll never forget as long as I live. They said, "David, we're not only thanking you and welcoming you for serving your country and for being back here, but you tell your story wherever you go, because there are thousands of people out there that don't feel welcomed and supported in their lives. And it's really hard to live in our hearts. It's really hard to be happy if you don't feel welcomed. So you tell your story and you help these people heal." And right then and there, I vowed to do just that. And when I did, my miracle happened instantly. That anvil of weight that I've been carrying for 30 years lifted from my shoulders. And it was gone. And I was healed. So I want to honor and thank Sky for that. One of the things that Sky was so amazingly good at was just absolutely making people feel loved and supported and welcomed in their lives. And when he passed, both my wife and I were really grieving because we were dear friends with him. But I had a thought that really helped me with that. And my image of Sky was that he was up there, wherever heaven is, wherever the Holy Land that he's living in now, he was up there and he was welcoming home all those that were leaving the planet to find their way to their new home. He was carrying on with what he was so good at, where he was. And that helped me. That image helped me. How do you feel in your lives? It's so important that we know that we're supported by others, that we're not here alone. It's so very, very, very important. Think about that in your lives. What is it that you need to be at peace? You know, in the divine world, which lives in our hearts, miracles are a natural, everyday occurrence. And they are powerful. And one of the things that Christ said a long, long time ago that I'll never forget, that means a lot to me, is that he said that we could do all of the things that he did and even greater. Now, I want you to think about that. What does that mean? That means that we are incredible beings on this planet with incredible capabilities, and that all things are possible for us. And I believe that that statement actually comes true when we are living in our hearts of love And we are aligning our hearts with our subconscious mind, which is what creates our behavior in our lives. If those two aspects of self are in perfect harmony, literally all things are possible and we are capable of anything. So I'm going to tell you a little story about that. I moved to Southern California in 1986 from Daytona Beach, Florida. I didn't know anybody, but I just knew it was my place to be. And while I was there, I went to this New Thought self-improvement workshop. It was with about 150, 200 people. And I met a lot of really interesting people. And one of the facilitators of that workshop said that the next week they were going to have a really powerful workshop about empowering ourselves, believing in who we are and moving forward in that power. And she said the title of the workshop is called The Fire Walk. I thought, wow, this sounds really good. This is something I've been interested in, so I'm going to go to this. So we go to this amazing workshop, and it's about overcoming fear and doing some amazing things with our own power. And so we build a fire outside, and then we go inside while the fire is burning down. It takes about 4 hours. And while we're inside, we talk about being empowered, listening to our inner intuition, moving forward in who we are without limitation, believing that all things are possible, and letting go of fear. And at the end of the 4 hours, we go back outside, and the fire had burned down, and so we raked the coals, which were 12 to 1,500 degrees, white hot. We made them about 15 feet long and 3 to 4 feet wide. And then we were to make a circle around the fire, and one by one, when it was our time, we would get in front of the fire, we would really stand there, listen to our intuition, and if our intuition said, go for it, we would walk across. But if it said, don't do this, we would listen to that intuition and not do it. But when it was my turn, I stood in front of the fire, I focused, I prepared myself, and then I started shaking like this. So I thought, well, I better check out to make sure that this is excitement and not fear before I walk across those coals. And so I checked it out, and it was excitement. So I waited for my inner voice to say go for it, and when it did, I walked across those coals. But when I stepped off of the coals, something happened that was incredibly profound for me. I felt this energy infill me that was incredibly powerful, and as soon as I stepped off, my first thought was what the Christ said 2,000 years ago, that we could do all of the things that he did, and even greater. And I thought to myself, I just did that. I just had that experience. And I was amazed. I was just filled up with that. And I'm here to tell you, for about 1 month after that experience, until life just went its course, for about 1 month, everything that I thought instantaneously manifested. Everything I touched turned to gold. It was living that experience for that period of time. I got to live it and feel what that feels like. And ever since then, I've thought about, why did that happen for me? And then I thought, it's available for all of us. It's a truth that the Christ said. And then I realized that 2 ingredients are necessary for that to happen. To be in the heart, in the power of our heart, the universal connector, the divine self, and have the heart in perfect harmony with the subconscious mind, which creates the behavior. When that happens, we send those messages of all things are possible out to the universe, and the universe says, so be it, and brings back to us in the form of experience something to match what we're sending to it in the form of belief. And literally, it becomes possible. And I can't think of a better time than now, with all that's happening on the planet, to live that truth and to believe it fully. Because we are made in the image of divine. That makes us incredibly powerful people. And you probably have noticed that the children that are coming onto the planet are amazing. That they possess, a lot of them, what we've been looking for a long time. They already have it. And so it's important that we listen to our children, because they have profound information for us. My granddaughter, Cece, when she was 2 years old, My wife Margaret was playing with her, and she was hugging her, and she said, "Cece, why do I love you so much?" And Cece looked at her like, "You should know the answer to that." And she said, "Because we're all one." 2 years old. Nobody had ever said that to her. And then at 5 years old, she paints this painting of these beings just kind of floating in space. We say, "That's really cool, Cece. What is the name of your painting?" And she says, "Spirit beings from the 10th dimension." My grandson, Dominic, at 4 years old, I'm playing with him, and I was kidding around with him, and I said, "Dommy, what do you want to be when you grow up?" And he says, "A Shaolin priest." And I said, "Wow, that's amazing. If you're going to be a Shaolin priest, you need to know how to meditate, Dommy." And he says, "Oh, I already know how to meditate." He got in the lotus position, put his fingers like this, and starts oming. These children are amazing, and they have messages for us. All we have to do is listen. These are the future leaders of the world, and they come in different than we were when we came in. They come in with profound understanding. They are miracles for us to learn from. Think about that. Think about that. They have a lot to teach us. How many of you know, without a shadow of a doubt, that you are a miracle and that you, in that miracle, are a visionary and a healer? Raise your hand. Okay. For any of you that doubt this, I'm going to tell you exactly how powerful you are. When we were living in Southern California, my wife and I did a workshop in Idyllwild, California, in the mountains near San Diego. And the title of this weekend workshop was called Envisioning Your Heart Desires and Literally Bringing Those into Manifestation. One of the women that came to the workshop was really having a difficult time. And she couldn't stay present in the workshop. And we could sense that about her. And so we said, "What's going on?" And she says, "You know, I'm really afraid." She said that I can't get this vision of my friend that's going to be taken into the hospital on Monday out of my head. The doctors have said that she has terminal cancer and that she's going to need to have an operation. And if she has that operation, I'm afraid I'm going to lose her on the operating table. And I can't shake that fear. And so we said, if you were to make a shift into your heart of hearts, into another possibility of a vision for your friend, a higher and holier possibility, what would you imagine that vision would look like? So we had her close her eyes, take a deep breath, and we had her to call on Divine Spirit, Holy Spirit, to move her energies out of here into here, where all things are possible. And from the heart, envision another possibility for her friend. So after about 5 minutes, she opens her eyes like this, and she looks around. She says, "Wow." We said, "What happened?" And she said, "Well, when I brought the energy into my heart, I saw this completely different scenario. I saw my friend going into the hospital on Monday, and my friend was really afraid. She was afraid. She didn't know if she was going to come out of that hospital that day. And they were preparing her for surgery. And her doctor, as they were talking to her, had a sudden thought, an insight, an inner knowing. And so they tell her friend, "You know, I'm not sure why, but I'm being instructed, I'm being told to do another biopsy before your surgery. I just feel like it's important." So they did the biopsy. When the results came back, that cancer was gone. Her friend got up and walked out of that hospital healed. Really powerful vision. Really different than what she was envisioning before. And so we said, in your heart of hearts, do you believe that your vision is actually possible for your friend? Because our beliefs are really important. She's thought about it for a moment. She said, "Yeah, I do believe that's possible." So we asked every single member of that group, do you believe that her vision for her friend is actually possible? And everybody said yes. So together, We did a group vision, holding that belief system into our hearts. That night, we all went home. On Monday evening, we got a call from Lynn, the woman in our workshop. She says, I want to tell you this story. She said, my friend went to the hospital on Monday. And she was terrified. She didn't know if she was going to make it out alive. And they were preparing her for surgery. And her doctor, who was a female doctor, while she was talking to her, paused for a minute, just kind of looked off like this, and said, I'm just getting this feeling now, this knowing that I better do another biopsy before you go into surgery. I'm not sure why, I've never done this before, but I just feel like it's the right thing to do. So they did. They did another biopsy. The results came back, and that cancer was gone in the blink of an eye. She got up, walked out of that hospital healed, fulfilling the holy vision that we all held for her. That is how powerful you are. I want you to take that in now. I want you to take it in, not only into your heart, but into your subconscious mind. That's how powerful you are. All things are possible. And now is the time that we claim from the Lord God of our beings the truth of who we are and live that truth. And watch the miracles abound. Watch the shifts happen. And every moment of blessing that we have in our lives is another moment of blessing upon our planet. So it's not just serving ourselves. We are serving all that is, because we are all energetically connected, including with the planet. This is what we can do. Live in our hearts. Plant positive messages into the subconscious. Send those messages out to the universe, and have blessings come our way. And each and every blessing that comes our way is not only touching us, it's touching all that is, including the planet. And this is serving in a grand and wondrous way. A couple of years ago, when I was speaking at Greenville Unity in South Carolina, a friend of mine and I, who would share our same vision of wanting as many people as possible to have really positive thoughts, first in their heart and then in their subconscious, so they can live at a much higher level of truth and holiness. We decided to create a means and way of doing that to help people. So we created these CDs that are really powerful with subliminal programming, with positive messages. There's 6 different CDs. And when you listen to these, they literally bypass the conscious and are implanted directly into the subconscious mind. And once the subconscious accepts them as truth, it creates the behavior to go along with that. Most of us weren't taught how the subconscious works, and especially how it works in unison with the heart. But this is how we create our reality, and we can create a miracle reality every single day for ourselves, no matter what's going on out there, by staying in that alignment. Because fear doesn't live there. You cannot be here, which is love, and here, which is fear at the same time. You can go back and forth. But the goal is to live in the heart as much as possible and create holiness in our words, thoughts, and actions. And that is the miracle right there. That is the formula for creating miracle reality. You are God's miracle come true. Please see me at my table. Ask me about miracles, because you are one of them. Believe it. Now I'm going to have everybody stand, please. And I'm going to have you put your hand on your heart, because you're about to receive a miracle now.
He's coming.
Oh, there it is. You're on. Prepare yourselves. You're going to like this.